Content warnings: landslide, natural disasters, suffocation, drowning, being buried alive. Please listen at your own discretion. The Usher Foundation. Episode 5. The Mud. Statement of Khalil Osman, age 30...
Hey, I got those files on... Oh, shit. Sorry, didn't know you were still recording this late.
No worries. I just wanted to get this last one done before heading out.
Hopefully I didn't screw up your whole recording.
You wish. I hadn't even started.
Well, I was just gonna drop these off. You gonna be much longer?
Not sure. Why?
I'm dragging Kaylee out to grab a drink. You should come with us.
I don't know, Mari. The statement might take a while, and then I've got to lock up, and...
Come on, Mita. It's a Friday. Remember what that used to mean for us before we became boring, stuffy adults? I need some time to breathe away from all this soul-crushing paperwork, and you need to understand that one drink won't tarnish your streak as a very serious and accomplished academic. Just finish up, leave everything on your desk, and meet us at Nellie's. If you don't, I will hide that ridiculously antiquated tape recorder.
Okay, alright. I'll be done soon.
Don't keep us waiting too long. Sorry for interrupting. Return to your statement of Edgar Allan Poe's obsession with organs and carpentry or whatever.
Will do. Alright, let's try this again. Statement of Khalil Osman, age 53, at time of statement. Statement number 05103809. Summary of statement: a mudslide disaster occurring in West Virginia, encountered while hiking. Original statement taken May 10, 2009. Recorded by Amita Dasgupta, archival assistant at the Usher Foundation of Paranormal Research, Washington, D.C. Statement as follows. It's pointless to research the landslide. According to the rest of the world, it never happened. I mean, I know it did. I was there, and 3 of my friends died from it. But if you were to go back to the site where it all went down, there's just nothing there. More than that, there are no news reports about a landslide, no traces of anything I'm about to tell you. I would know. I'm the one who insisted on the relief team searching that area for days. And nothing. Do you know how it feels to carry guilt and grief over something no one else saw? Something that, according to every expert, could not have possibly happened in the first place? I'm sick of it. And you guys, you're supposed to help people with this. I'm done with it. I just need a night's sleep where I don't see their faces or hear their screaming for once. So I consider myself a pretty active guy. Personally, I don't know many 53-year-olds who are regularly hiking and jogging and mountain climbing. But I found out a few years ago that I'm predisposed to a bunch of things. Diabetes, heart disease, the usual. That all run in my family. Doctors said I could minimize the risk by staying active, and I don't want to go like how my mother did. She never exercised a day in her life, and, well, she died of heart failure. When most people think of exercising, their first thought is the gym. But for me, I could never stand commercial gyms. All those prying eyes that seem to catch on every droplet of sweat. No, I always preferred to be doing stuff outdoors. As I got older, I had fewer and fewer friends who shared my passions for excursions into the great unknown, so I figured well, it's a little embarrassing, but around 10 or 15 years ago, I reached out on Facebook, just to see if I could find groups of men who liked to bike, climb, snowboard, that kind of thing. I wasn't expecting much, but I did actually connect with 3 other guys around my age who I got along with. We all lived close enough and started texting each other about our outdoor adventures. Had a group chat and everything. Eventually, we even started planning summer trips together where we met up to do some sort of hiking or camping. We stayed in touch for a really long time, long enough that we all became husbands and fathers. But we still met up once a year for our annual expedition. It was my turn to pick our destination last year. I'm the one who chose the Allegheny Mountains. I'd always wanted to tackle a range in the Appalachians, and Spruce Mountain in particular was supposed to have a beautiful view. It's a pretty well-traveled mountain in the Appalachians, and me and the boys agreed on a week when we were all free, and we bought our plane tickets. Right, you said full names. Sorry. Their names were Max Patel. I think his full name was actually Maxwell, but no one ever called him that. I mean, seriously, Maxwell Patel? What were his parents thinking? Griffin Anderson and Dwayne Cooper. Max had a wife and 2 kids. Griffin had a husband and a daughter. Dwayne had a wife and 5 kids. 5 of them. All of them are fatherless now. They were husbands. They were fathers. Do you know what it's like to tell the spouses and kids of a friend that they died in a horrible way? I wanted to be there for them, you know. But they don't talk to me anymore. Why would they? One of their daughters still says hi from time to time, but that's about it. Of all the things I lost that year, that's probably the worst. I lost connections. Friends. Family, really. It's my fault, you know? I'm the one who steered us toward those damn mountains. I had no idea. I had no idea. The thing is, everything was completely normal for most of the trip. Nothing wrong with the flight, well, besides Griffin's usual altitude-induced nausea, and we had no problems checking into our hotel. Even renting the car to get us out to the trailhead went smoothly. We always triple-check our camping supplies, and once that was done, we set out. The plan was to hike from the base to the top of the Allegheny Mountain Pass, then to the top of Spruce Mountain. We planned for about a week of hiking and camping. It was around the 4th day that things started to go really wrong. Everything began with the rumbling. It was around midday when we started feeling them, those vibrations, subtle but far-reaching beneath us. Dwayne was the first to point them out. He called for us to stop, and I thought he had spotted some wildlife or something, so I halted in my tracks. I remember it struck me how unsettlingly quiet the woods were. I mean, you know, the forest is never quiet, right? Always trees rustling, or birds chirping, or leaves crunching. But standing there in that utter silence, I felt a lurch in my stomach. And that's when I noticed it. The barest tremor, tingling my feet and causing the detritus to shake. We all looked at each other, checking if the others had felt it. And then there was another one. Stronger that time, and it didn't stop. The world was off balance, convulsing violently, and I felt my stomach turn again as I toppled over onto my hands and knees. When I managed to look up, I saw that Griffin and Max had stumbled into each other, and Dwayne was leaning heavily on a tree. I opened my mouth to yell, but I couldn't make any noise louder than the forceful shaking of the world. I heard the crack of trees nearby falling, and strangely, it was then that I started to panic. I tried to crawl as fast as I could over to the others, tried to say something to them. And I realized I could hear something else, too. At first I thought it was Griffin or Max screaming in terror, but it wasn't. It was singing. But not regular singing, you know? It was some kind of deep, primal song that seemed to come from under us, from the ground itself. And then the earthquake just stopped. It felt like a million years until we regained the strength to stand again, choking down our fear. When I looked around, I saw no fallen trees, no cracks in bark or fractures in the ground like there should have been, where I know they had been. I could hear animals and the wind again. It was like it had never happened. The majority consensus among the group was to keep it trucking, to brush this off as some kind of freak earthquake and forget about the whole thing in order to preserve our sanity and what was left of our long-anticipated excursion. Max was flipping out, but we reassured him, brushed it off as Max being Max and letting his anxiety get the best of him. I mean, what were we supposed to do? We were alone in the woods on top of a literal mountain. At that point, it would have been slower to turn around and find help, and we all told Max so. If something went wrong, well, we tried not to let our minds wander into those kinds of thoughts. We started having trouble following the trail, with all of us becoming increasingly frustrated as the route seemed to end or branch in odd places that weren't marked on our map. The soil became softer, harder to trek through than it had been only days before. Something just felt off in a way it hadn't when we started the hike. And the rumbling, it kept happening. Every couple of hours, some deep shaking within the earth would leave us all toppled over and terrified. I think it was our 4th time losing the trail that Griffin suggested we turn back, cut our losses and head for home. He was pale and there was a wobble in his voice when he spoke. He was looking right at me, I guess because in a way I had become the de facto leader of the group. I felt Dwayne and Max's eyes on me as well, boring into me, heavy and imploring. And to this day, I have no idea why, but I said no. I said it was just some weird weather phenomena, and that it wasn't a big deal. Why? Why did I say that? Why in God's name did I refuse to just pack up our things and leave? Why did Griffin's words make me so angry? Why did it make me feel like we were giving up? And why was that the last thing I wanted to do? All I know is that I made the group keep walking until dusk fell. I assured my friends that the earthquakes were over and that we'd be at the base of Spruce soon enough. I kept reminding them how amazing it would feel to reach the peak as we set up the tents and put out the fire. I kept pushing and pushing, even though I could see how skeptical and scared they all looked. I woke up in the middle of the night because of the rain. It wasn't the cold or the damp that stirred me. It was the sound. It was a hard, pounding rain, the kind that hits the skin and feels like a sharp slap. It made this awful drumming sound on the roof of my tent that reverberated inside my skull. I lay there, staring up at the moonlit, rain-beaten walls of my tent, when I became aware of another sound. At first, I thought it was one of the guys, a muffled, disembodied voice that seemed to come from outside, but it wasn't quite right. My ears strained until I realized. It was singing. A horrible, deep, chanting kind of singing, so low and echoing that it hurt in my bones. I was frozen in place listening to this horrible song when I felt the earth begin to heave again, and I knew something terrible was going to happen. It was this shaking that broke my trance and forced me to tear myself out of my sleeping bag, grab my flashlight, and rip open the door of my tent. I don't know what my plan was exactly. I just knew I had to wake my friends up, to warn them so we could get out of there. And I saw the mudslide. It wasn't moving like a mudslide is supposed to move, like how I know mudslides to move through all of my research and studies. Mudslides happen when the soil absorbs too much water, usually from rainfall or snow melting too quickly, and part of the ground kind of just rips away and tumbles downhill, picking up speed and debris as it goes. This was different. When my flashlight caught on the side of the hill, I saw a tidal wave, a tsunami of mud roiling and churning like the sea. It was stalled, suspended on the side of the mountain as if frozen under the light of my torch. I caught glimpses of broken trees, animal carcasses, bones. A horrible melange of the ancient and newly dead, all mixed up in this colossal swell of wet earth. It towered at easily the same height as the surrounding trees, probably over 100 feet high. When I tilted my flashlight upwards, it just kept swelling and bulging. It wasn't moving towards us, not yet. It was building up. I watched it grow higher and higher, a mass of mud and bone. The rain stung my skin and my head was filled with that awful warbling pitch, crooning from the core of whatever lies below. I wanted to bolt. I wanted to scream to my friends to wake up. I wanted to plead for help. But all I could do was just stand there, halfway out of my tent, staring open-mouthed at our deaths. And then the wave crashed down. In the instant before I was swept away, I saw everything, my mind snaring on each horrible, gruesome detail. I saw the tents washed away in the mud like paper. I saw Max fight his way out of his tent and turn toward the noise, panic in his eyes, before he was swallowed whole by the wave. Griffin's body slammed into a tree and snapped in half. I watched his entrails join the flow of the dirt and bones and branches. I didn't catch what happened to Dwayne, but judging by how quickly the entire campsite was eaten by the slide, I think it's safe to say he drowned in his sleep. You cannot imagine how it feels to be buried under so many tons of dirt. The way the mud pushed itself insistent into my mouth so that my teeth and tongue were coated in the slick, wet soil. The feeling of it, sliding and slippery down my throat and into my stomach, while my lungs tried desperately to breathe through the mud and the earth. At the same time, my entire body felt as though it was being crushed in a hydraulic press. I don't know how I survived. I must have blacked out. All I know is I woke up face down on the ground. I vomited up mud for what felt like hours, and eventually wandered my way out of the mountains to a little town in the Appalachians. I don't even remember what the town was called. I must have looked like a ghost, absolutely crusted in mud and half dead. But I was able to call for help, and an emergency rescue team combed the area for 3 days. All they were able to recover was our tents. No bodies were found, no traces of any sort of natural disaster were found. You know, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if there had been any kind of press. Would the headlines have named me insane? A poor lost hiker? Would they be convinced I somehow killed 3 grown men in the woods and managed to turn myself into a public victim or something? I don't know. But like I said, there was nothing but the tents. They didn't even find traces of rain. I've lived with this for a year now. And every night, I dream of the mud. I dream of looking up and seeing a tsunami of dirt and bones blocking out the sky. I dream of rain and cold and drowning. I dream that as it fills my chest and eyes and nose, I can hear my friends screaming at me. But that's not the nightmare. The nightmare is that they're not screaming for me to save them. They're screaming at me to let myself drown. They tell me how comforting the earth is, how warm the bottom of the landslide is, if I just let myself go deeper. They tell me I'll be happy there. Statement ends. Another statement about dirt and burying. Huh. Well, at the very least, they're getting easier to categorize. Mr. Osman moved from Texas to Michigan soon after visiting our institute, where he still lives to this day. According to the notes Kaylee left me, his wife left him 2 years after giving this statement. She declined to give any details regarding their divorce, and Mr. Osman himself stated he was not willing to give any more information about the statement. Big surprise. He said, quote, "I had enough sleeping problems before writing down my story, and now thanks to you, I'll never sleep right again." Huh. Well, I guess getting it off his chest didn't help. Regarding the families of Max Patel, Griffin Anderson, and Dwayne Cooper. Max's wife, Caroline Patel, eventually remarried and currently lives in Cheyenne, Wyoming. She declined to give any further information, as did their son Shomit and their daughter Shohini. Mr. Anderson's husband, Benjamin Anderson, took his own life 3 years after Mr. Osman gave the statement. He is survived by their daughter, June Goldberg. Mrs. Goldberg has apparently given a statement with the Usher Foundation in the past. I've already given Kaylee the task of hunting down her statement. If it has anything to do with Mr. Osman's account, we could start creating leads to whatever this entity is. Mr. Cooper's wife, Janelle Cooper, is a mysterious case. When Kaylee attempted to track her down for follow-up, she discovered that Mrs. Cooper has been missing since 2011. According to police reports, their eldest son, Dwayne Cooper Jr., went to visit after going 3 weeks without hearing from Mrs. Cooper. She had clearly been missing for quite a long time, based on the state of her home, and they discovered great quantities of dried blood all over the kitchen. To this day, Mrs. Cooper's disappearance remains something of a cold case. Mari did a little research into the area Mr. Osman and his friends were hiking through. It's actually quite a popular area, and while it is in fact prone to natural disasters like avalanches and landslides, disaster relief teams found no trace of any such event in the area. They didn't even find evidence of rain. All they discovered were 4 waterproof tents, torn and shredded beyond recognition. They were inexplicably caked in several inches of thick, dried mud. Oh, wait, shoot. Gotta leave a note for Mari, because I'm not gonna be here on Monday. What time? Oh, shit. Yeah, they're definitely gonna steal my tape recorder. Where am I posted? Okay, just gotta... Oh, right, end tape.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast written by Jonathan Sims and produced by Alexander J. Newall and distributed by Rusty Quill. Story, characters, and ideas written about in this fan-made project belong to Rusty Quill. The Usher Foundation is a fan-made project co-written by Rashmi Phillips and Mari and edited by Mari, Kaylee F, Amber, and Emma. All audio used in this project was Creative Commons Use Audio. Thank you for listening.